At 25, $5 feels useless. At 65, this $5 habit is worth more than $500,000. The problem is that for years, it looks like nothing is happening. Most people quit before the account begins adding more money than they do. This is your life if you invest $5 a day. We are starting with the first deposit and following every stage until retirement, so you can see exactly when $5 stops looking small. It is 6:40 in the evening, and you are standing at a convenience store counter with a $5 note already in your hand. An energy drink is sweating beside the register. The cashier slides over a scratch ticket without looking up. $5. You do not think about it. Nobody thinks about it. $5 is the price of not having to decide. You scratch the ticket in the parking lot with a coin from the cup holder. Nothing. You knew it would be nothing. You drop it on the passenger seat beside the others from this week. Drink half the can and drive home. By tomorrow, you will not remember any of this happened. That is the entire power of $5. It is small enough to disappear without leaving a mark. It is the next evening. The same counter, the same cashier, the same $5. But this time, you do not reach for the ticket. You do not buy the can. You walk back to the car, open an investing app, and move $5 into a broad index fund that spreads your money across many companies. The screen says your balance is $5. It looks absurd. It looks like a child planted one seed in an empty field and called it a farm. There is no rush and no prize to reveal. Just $5 sitting in an account. You do it again the next day, then the next. Finally, you automate it, because the smartest part of this decision is removing yourself from it. Roughly $152 leaves your account each month before it can become something with a wrapper. You barely notice it is gone. The $5 was always going to disappear. You only changed where it went. $5 a day works out to roughly $152 a month. In the life we are about to follow, that money averages 8% growth a year across 40 years, with every gain left inside to keep growing. Some years are generous, one is brutal. Fees and tax take their share, and inflation changes what the final number can buy. This is not a promise about your future. It is one possible path through it. 1 year passes. Your balance is about $1,900. You contributed $1,825. The market added roughly $70. $70. A result so small it almost feels insulting. You mention it to a coworker over lunch. He asks how much you made, and when you tell him, he laughs. Not cruelly, honestly. He says he can make $70 in an afternoon. He is right. He buys lunch out most days, grabs a drink at the corner store, and buys a scratch ticket whenever the jackpot gets loud. About $5 a day, scattered across tiny pleasures he will struggle to name a month later. The visible difference between you is only $70. But the invisible difference is a habit. And the habit is the part that matters, because the first year is designed to make patience look stupid. 5 years in, the number still will not look life-changing. Then temptation arrives. You are 30. The balance is around $11,000. You contributed a little over $9,000. The rest appeared while you were living your life. $11,000 built almost entirely from things you did not buy. Then a friend sends you a screenshot. A coin you have never heard of is up 400% in a week. He put $2,000 into it. He tells you to stop being a coward. Your boring fund makes in a year what his coin made before lunch. He is right about the speed. He is wrong about the direction. You have seen this shape before. A small amount. A giant promise. No time in between. At the convenience store, it was called a scratch ticket. You pass. 3 months later, the coin is down 90%, and your friend has stopped mentioning it. You keep doing the least exciting thing possible. You keep getting richer slowly enough that nobody notices. And then the boring plan meets its first real threat. 10 years have passed. Your balance is roughly $27,800. You contributed about $18,250. The growth is roughly $9,500. Then the market falls. Headlines call it a crash. Your balance drops by about 1/3 in a few weeks. Nearly a decade of visible growth appears to vanish. A friend who sold during the last crash tells you he saw this coming. He is in cash now. Safe. You do not feel brave. You simply stop by opening the app. The $152 keeps leaving your account each month. It buys the same broad fund while the price is lower. You are not predicting the bottom. You do not even know where the bottom is. You are just bored enough to do nothing. And doing nothing may be the hardest skill in investing. By the time everyone agrees it feels safe again, your habit has already been buying through the fear. That is when the story changes. You are 40. In this version of the story, the market has recovered, and your balance is around $52,600. You contributed about $27,400. For the first time, the account contains almost as much growth as money you personally added. Read that again. For 15 years, you pushed the stone uphill $5 at a time. Now, the stone is beginning to roll on its own. That spring, a coworker loses his job. He has nothing behind him, nothing between the first missed pay packet and panic. Your investment account is not an emergency fund, and selling during a bad market could still hurt you. But knowing it is there changes how trapped you feel. It gives you options. For the first time, you understand that the $5 was never only about retirement. It was also about becoming harder to frighten. And within 5 years, the account crosses the line this whole story has been moving toward. 20 years have passed. Your balance is roughly $89,600. You contributed about $36,500. The growth is now more than everything you put in. This is the crossover. The account has produced more money than you fed it. Your account has started working a second job you never assigned it. That summer, you go to a reunion. Someone arrives in a car that costs more than you earn in a year. Someone else talks loudly about a watch. You arrive in the same paid-off car you have driven for years. The old co-worker who laughed at your $70 asks whether you ever kept using that little app. You tell him you did. He asks how much is in it. You answer. The table goes quiet. Not because you won something, because nothing about your life looked like you were building $89,000. That is what makes the $5 so powerful. It never needed to look impressive. But the next 10 years are where the numbers stop whispering. You are 50. The balance is around $144,600. You contributed about $45,600. The growth is close to $99,000. You read headlines about people your age reaching retirement with almost nothing saved. You are not a genius. You are not a professional investor. You did not earn some extraordinary salary. You worked an ordinary job, paid ordinary bills, sat in ordinary traffic, and made one tiny decision automatic. Your friends talk about retirement like a cliff moving closer. You see it differently, not because you know exactly what the future holds, because for 25 years you've been quietly preparing for it. The $5 is no longer the main force. The growth is. And over the next 5 years, the gap becomes impossible to ignore. 30 years have passed. The balance is around $226,700. You contributed roughly $54,750. The growth is close to $172,000. At the assumed 8% return, an average year could now add around $18,000 before your new contributions. You still add less than $2,000 a year. Your balance now does most of the work. The habit that once earned $70 in an entire year can now move by thousands while you sleep. This is why the beginning felt so pointless. Compounding hides the reward at the exact moment most people need proof. Then it reveals the reward when the habit is already part of who you are. But the final number is not the most surprising part. The breakdown is, you are 65. 40 years have passed since the evening you did not buy the scratch ticket. The balance in this model is about $531,000. Now look at where it came from. The amount you actually contributed, $5 at a time, is $73,000. The remaining $458,000 comes from investment growth in the model. For every dollar you added, the model produces more than $6 in growth. You did not pick one winning company. You did not predict a crash. You did not discover a shortcut. You redirected $5 more than 14,000 times and gave it 4 decades to work. That is the mechanism. There is no second secret. The slowness was the price. And almost nobody wants to pay in a currency that takes 40 years to clear. Your old co-worker retires around the same time. He worked the same job and earned roughly the same salary. His $5 a day also added up to $73,000 across 40 years. He drank it, scratched it, ate it, and spent it on thousands of small comforts. That does not make him a bad person. Some of those purchases may have been worth every cent. The danger is that he rarely chose them. The habit made the choice before he did. You both stood at the same counters with the same amount in your hands. There was no single day when your lives split. There were only 2 different answers to the same tiny question, asked again and again until the answers stopped feeling like choices and became 2 different lives. Somewhere right now, it is 6:40 in the evening. Someone is standing at a convenience store counter with $5 already in their hand. They may spend it, enjoy it, and forget it by tomorrow. They are not doing anything wrong. $5 feels like nothing. That is why it disappears. You may not feel the $5 either way, but 40 years from now, you will feel what it became. If you want an honest look at how much you really need to live off dividends, watch this video here.